So, welcome to the virtual edition of the Ljubljana Documentary Film Festival. We are going to present your film 76 Days, which you made with several collaborators. But firstly, I wonder if you saw Ai Weiwei's films, Coronation, that came out about the same time as your did last year, because we screened Ai Weiwei's film last year in November at the International Festival, and I wonder, have you seen it, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I think I definitely I've seen it. I've seen Coronation. I think it's really interesting that both Ai Weiwei and this film, 76 Days, use a very similar approach, which is
Yeah.
focused on the individuals. But in terms of the type of character stories to include, I think Coronation and 76 Days use a slightly different approach. I think with Coronation, it was more about a cross section of the entire city. There are people inside the hospital, obviously, but also I think the primary focus was actually residents outside of the hospitals. With 76 Days, the primary focus definitely the medical workers and the patients
Yes.
at the front line.
So I wonder, how did you have the access to the hospital? Was it a clandestine operation, or did you have, any official, stamps so you could shoot there?
Yeah. So getting access to hospitals during the lockdown was complicated. Obviously, anytime you want to gain access to film anywhere in China could be complicated as well. But I think based on my personal experience, filming in China, all my films were shot in China. My experience has been that even though the government may have some kind of regulation, but since those regulations are being imposed from top to bottom, a lot of time the actual decision was made by people, making decisions on the ground. Whereas I try to gain access to New York hospitals here in New York, where I live, it was almost impossible because there are very strict laws. There's legal consequences. With 76 days during the lockdown in Wuhan, the hospital was restricted only to patients, medical professionals, some state-sanctioned TV or film crews, as well as sometimes it's up to the reporters to negotiate access. So with one of the co-director, Wei Shi Chen, he was a video reporter for Esquire, but he wasn't sent to cover the story. He wanted to go there because he's a documentary filmmaker himself. He wanted to make a documentary. But even though he's a reporter for a commercial publication in China, he was turned down by 4 different hospitals. So he had to embed himself with a medical team that was being sent from outside of Wuhan to support a local hospital. And because the local hospital saw him arriving with the medical team, so for a while, they thought he was working for the medical team. That's how he gained access. With my co-director Anonymous, he was a photojournalist. He was sent by his local newspaper in Wuhan to take photos on the ground to be included in the news story. So that's how he gained access. So, but I think the access issue starting in mid-March become much tighter. The central government, once they put the outbreak under control, they really tighten up the access because they want to control the narrative coming out of Wuhan. But before that, for a period of time when Wuhan was in absolute chaos due to the lockdown, some of the hospital, not all, some of the hospital actually welcomed reporters to come in and report because they wanted people outside to know what's truly happening so they could get help.
Apparently, you were in Shanghai when the outbreak happened, and you wanted to enter Wuhan, but you didn't gain access. Yes.
No, that's not the case. So I was in Shanghai when the lockdown happened.
Okay.
So even though Shanghai was far from Wuhan, but Shanghai had its own lockdown as well. So that really impacted me. That kind of became the impetus for me to make this film. So I came back to New York in early February And then a US network at that time asked me to make a film. So that's how I started researching and getting in touch with people in Wuhan, started collaborating. But that US network later dropped out, so I finished the film independently. I tried to rearrange my way to go back. So I made all this arrangement to fly back to Shanghai and to get myself smuggled inside of Wuhan on the back of a supply truck. But once we made all the plan, it was becoming very obvious it was coming to the US as well, the pandemic. So I canceled that trip and decided to stay in New York just to monitor if there's anything I could film here in New York as well.
You both of the chaos of the first weeks, of the outbreak, and but at the same time, this huge empathy and the dedication of the medical staff, So I think this is a film about human care and of kindness, at the same time, because it's especially at the ends, it's very emotional as well.
Yeah, so, absolutely. That's very intentional. I think for a while, we thought about adopting a similar approach to Ai Weiwei's coronation film, and also probably to do more investigation on the ground to find out what truly happened in the early days and what made it so bad, the initial outbreak so bad in Wuhan. But really quickly, we realized it would be almost impossible, extremely difficult, almost impossible to do any kind of investigation with a camera because Wuhan was under lockdown. It's not like you can travel around the city at all. And also later on, we just realized, we've heard other filmmakers like Ai Weiwei's team. I didn't know Ai Weiwei was making that film, but we knew of other teams making similar films. And also at the same time, the strongest footage coming out of my two collaborators was really this kind of very focused attention on the human story, on the individual human stories, how people support each other to live through a crisis. That's what's so strong in the footage, and that's even to this day I feel like it's rare. I haven't seen anything like this from anywhere else in the world. So that's why we shifted later on, just say we want to focus the film on these kind of individual story that haven't really been talked that much in news media.
So what was the logic, with the shipping of the audiovisual material from China to you in New York, and when did you, when did it become clear, what kind of film are you going to make, because obviously you couldn't control what was being shot, so So what were all this process? What did it look like?
So basically, first of all, my two co-directors, I want to applaud them for taking enormous health risk, right, to start filming from the beginning of the lockdown. So what they did was every day after filming, they would take their cars out of the contamination zone. They couldn't even take their equipment out of contamination zone. They would upload the footage onto a cloud service in China. They shared their logins with me, so I would be able to download in New York and look at the rushes. So because at that time it was impossible to ship anything outside of Wuhan because there's not a lot of shipping service even happening at that time. And in the beginning, I was kind of feeling bad. They didn't film in 4K. They only filmed in HD. But that was a blessing in disguise because otherwise the 4K uploading, downloading would take forever. So after I looked at the rushes, I would discuss with them about some technical issues and also about character issues. But for a long time, we actually didn't know what the film would be about. Because first of all, we didn't know how long the lockdown would happen. Some people were speculating it would last all the way until the fall. And also because the pandemic was evolving so fast, it was going to different countries. So in addition to talking to them, I was actually reaching out to filmmakers in other countries, trying to see whether we want to do an international film, a global film about this pandemic. I myself started filming in New York. So for a while, we thought we want to do a comparison of two cities, Wuhan and New York. But I think it's in early April, after I look at the footage from elsewhere, I realized nothing was as powerful as the footage come out of Wuhan. That's one. Secondly, I really did feel like the same story happening in Wuhan was happening everywhere, because all the government were not ready to deal with the pandemic, and all the hospitals were overwhelmed at the very beginning in all the sort of hotspots throughout the world. And then I was like, we should just use the Wuhan story to tell this really universal story.
Yeah.
But then, I guess, fortunately for us and also for the people in Wuhan, lockdown was lifted in early April, right? I just remember watching a video shot on a cell phone being shared on Chinese social media of people in Wuhan just stopped for 3 minutes, just mourn the dead in silence for 3 minutes. I remember just crying so much looking at it, because it was incredibly, it's incredibly sad, even though it should be a victorious moment, because Wuhan survived, but there have been so much human sacrifice. So I remember crying, and after I had that cry, I just realized that should be the end of the film. The end is about the city survive after so much trauma.
Yeah.
So basically, that's when we decided what the film was going to be about.
What was your personal reaction to the Trumps, all the talk, about the Chinese virus? He was very denigrating in his, approach to China and the outbreak. So what do you think of his many words, that he spoke at the beginning?
Yeah, I think at the very, very beginning, Trump actually thanked the Chinese government for, quote unquote, he was even praising President Xi Jinping, right? So China told us we're going to be fine, US is going to be fine. China gave us enough, warning, or give us time to prepare, blah, blah, blah. But then later on, really quickly, once it was becoming obvious, the US government was totally unprepared, and also even, unwilling to accept the notion that the virus could come to the US. So he quickly changed tune, trying to assign all the blame to China. I'm not saying we should not continue to have conversation, investigations to find out what truly happened in the very beginning. But I just found all these scapegoating extremely disheartening, trying to shift responsibilities, basically the failures of the US government's response completely onto China, extremely damaging in terms of the geopolitical relationship, as well as fanning up anti-racism, anti-Asian racism, primarily here, because I live in the US, I can feel it on a daily basis reading the news, but I'm suspecting elsewhere as well in the rest of the world. So yeah, I mean, it was, but at the same time, based on my reading of the past pandemics, every time a pandemic happens, there's always, people always want to blame others for having caused this, right? That's just part of human nature. That's also part of the reason we decided not to talk about politics in this film, because it's complicated. It's a never-ending discussion. But I think, and it's a tragic aspect of human nature to resort to this. But at the same time, my team and I would really want to highlight there's still hope if we're willing to work together as a community.
Was your film shown in China so far?
No, because even though we thought we made we're making a political film, but then my co-director Anonymous was really nervous because the government was tightly controlling every COVID narrative, and also he was really afraid of internet trolls attacking him for, using people's tragedy for personal gain. So he insist on being anonymous, and so we granted, we respected him for that. And also, so that's why after premiere, for a long time, we refused to take any interview from Chinese language media. We didn't want to talk to any distributors in China either, because we wanted to really make sure he's okay. Gradually, I think based on the response over here among the Chinese diaspora, among the people who have watched the film, so the feedback has been really positive. But still, we haven't distributed film in China. But this being the internet age, pirated copies of the film have traveled very widely in China.
Yes. Hao, thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you, Simon. It's my pleasure.